Okay.
Okay, I'm Dr. Jeffrey Hedrick. This is MCOM 4341 Public Relations class. This is the fifth week of the semester, believe it or not.
Didn't even feel like it.
Doesn't feel like it, you know it. And unfortunately, last week was a little bit of a crazy session for us because last Thursday was the day Hurricane Laura decided to mosey on through Louisiana and was creating havoc and everything everywhere. And I know some of you didn't log in, and some of you were probably had your mind elsewhere for good reason. But last week, I will tell you that I went ahead and had a session last week on Zoom. I did it from my home instead of from school. That was the adjustment I made. And I also noted that, and I told the people who were in that Zoom session that we were going to go ahead and kind of take advantage of this opportunity. See how I did a positive spin on this?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take advantage of the opportunity to spend 2 weeks on PR history, because PR history is the biggest chapter in the book anyway. So we were going to spend 2 weeks on it. And what I did last week is those that were in attendance on Zoom, I opened up the PowerPoint and I went through the PowerPoint for the chapter. And you can watch that and view that at your leisure and understand what's going on there. But that isn't the whole story of public relations. Because public relations and has a deep history, and it's important anytime you start talking about history that you really take a deeper look at things. Because a lot of people, and I'm sharing the screen now, there's the Zoom I logged in with. Now that you take a look, and here it is right here. Here's a whiteboard. If you were in class, if we were in person, on the left side is old PR, and on the right side is modern PR. I'm hoping all of you can read this. It's a little fuzzy, I know. But old PR was in the 1600s in America starting, and roughly, this is a rough stop date, is 1899, because the turn of the century is just a nice day when we just draw the line. It's easier to think of things on, rounded off numbers or beginnings of centuries, beginnings of decades, it's easier to draw a line there. So there's a line drawn here with the red on one side and the black on the other dotted line. And it's a dotted line because things can go through. It's not necessarily a one, this is what it is, and we flipped. So the two major challenges for public relations in the olden times, 1600s to 1899, were people move in way of eminent domain. The PR challenges, people move in the way of eminent domain. What's people move in the way of eminent domain? Anybody know that?
Mm-mm.
You've heard that term?
I have. It's familiar. I don't remember.
Eminent domain is one of those terms they use when they legally tell you got to move.
Mm.
You're in the way of the railroad.
Oh, yeah.
You got to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, the railroad's going to go through, and the best way for the straight shot is right through your living room, whatever it is. So,
and they give like money to move too?
Exactly. They try to compensate you, and sometimes the compensation isn't exactly what you wanted, and you didn't want to move in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the challenges. These are the two major challenges of the railroad. We're using the railroad as an example of public relations. So they had people that they had to move so the railroad could have a straight shot through. Mm-hmm. And the other challenge was getting people on board. It's a new thing. They got to get people to use it. And a lot of people aren't necessarily going to buy into something right away. So that's a Public v. Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt was with the railroads. The other examples, good examples, are the circus. Their circus is Barnum and Bailey Circus. And the Barnum and Bailey Circus is a great example that I like to use because of the Barnum and Bailey Circus. And incidentally, your book has some examples on this and everything. The circus tries to tell you, the way they try to draw you in, is it with stuff that you've seen and the normal stuff?
Stuff you've never seen before.
Yeah, stuff you've never seen before. And crazy stuff.
Never before seen.
Yeah, crazy things. They said, you got to be kidding about that. So that's what they draw you in with, stuff that deviates from the normal and what people haven't seen yet. So they use that to draw you in or interest you or entertain you. Coca-Cola, we already went through Coca-Cola last week. Coca-Cola, the CA stands for cocaine. Initially, it had cocaine as one of its products. And a lot of the, what do you call it? Trying to think. Heal-alls, the elixirs. Back in the 1800s, there were a lot of them, and most of them had some kind of drug or alcohol in them.
Yeah.
And that drug or alcohol, it made you feel good for a while, but sooner or later, what was ailing you came back.
Yeah.
And so the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, did not approve a lot of those products.
Oh, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but Trump's trying to get the FDA to approve some stuff now that hasn't undergone the strict scrutiny of the testing and everything. Sensationalized muckrakers. What's sensationalism? Sensationalism is what the circus did. They sensationalized things and
They look really good.
yeah, make stuff look really good. And sensationalism is you're taking stuff right out of the playbook of the tabloids. The tabloids rely on sensationalism all the time. And those are those bigger sized, different sized newspaper type things that are usually, and they like to put them at the point of purchase area, which would be right as you're waiting in line.
Yep.
Checkout.
That's crazy. Now that you say that, I just now realized that as you're leaving, you see it while you're standing there waiting, or you see it when you come in.
That's right. They put them there for a reason, because there's something that you didn't come there, or you wouldn't be there normally to purchase, but when you see it, it catches your interest, and you say, huh, might as well buy that.
It really does. Even if I don't touch it, I'll read it, and I'm like, wow, and look away from it.
That's why chewing gum is there too. People don't go to the store to buy chewing gum.
That's true.
But when they see it there, and the mints, but they see it there and say, no, I could use that, and they go ahead and grab it. That's a point of purchase.
Yeah.
Because you're waiting in line.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna see if anybody else, nobody else has tried to get in. I want to make sure we aren't excluding anybody. So anyway, do we distribute, disseminate stuff with no follow-up? We just automatically, no automatic follow-up. We just automatically assume that the people who we wanted to get or we wanted to reach, they got it.
Okay.
And we just automatically assume that they got the message that we wanted them to get. Now, in modern PR, and the way I'm teaching you and the way the book teaches you, you don't assume that they got the right message. You follow up. And that's two-way instead of one-way communication. One way is sender, message, receiver, and it's distributed and disseminated to the masses. And after that, just you've done your job. Now, the times when this works is you're assuming that the environment and everything is static. Static is, it doesn't change. It stays in one place, the philosophy. And if you change the philosophy to be life changes, and we got to change and adapt with it, That's a philosophy of modern PR,
Yeah.
and it's more dynamic. That make sense?
Sure.
Yeah.
And you got the sender message receiver, and you add in another loop of feedback where you get information back from them, and you adapt the message, send it again, and send it out after you got the feedback or response. Incidentally, this is the PowerPoint from last week, and we went through the fresh fruits, the beginnings, the 1600s right here, the evolution to modern PR, which I'm talking about here, and you've come a long way PR, which is a slogan using the slogans. So you can watch the thing last week to get that. It's posted, I think it's 8/27. People, important people, Ivy Lee was one of the two fathers of modern public relations, him and Edward Bernays. Page 45 of your book is the Declaration of Principles. We listen, we care, is your philosophy. Instead of public be damned.
Mm-hmm.
Journalism, news, and the media. Instead of it being sensationalized and muckrakers and everything's looking, all of the newspapers are looking like the tabloids, we got the New York Times getting objective back around 1900. They strive for objectivity, at least. Okay? And public relations, part of public relations becomes media relations in that they need to provide the press releases and other items to the media with the hope that they're going to get the media to distribute it for them and get free publicity out of it. Management function of public opinion, instead of just distribute and disseminate information, you're a management function and you're managing things and you're trying to keep track of stuff. And you got external agencies and PR firms now, and you got crisis management, communication comes along. And of course, things like the stock market and investor relations, investor communication comes along, trying to make it so that the stock price stays high. People think that the product is the company is good. Like we're seeing a lot of that happen in the last few weeks with Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it happened with Tesla?
A whole bunch of crashes.
Because with Tesla got a big boost after it's interesting to use the word crash. They got a big boost when the rocket did not crash.
Damn.
When that rocket that they sent up made it into space and came back. And they were the first private company to do that. That was a big deal for them. And that helped out their stock price a lot in the public perception of the company. Didn't even think about that, huh?
No, I did not.
That's what the investor relations is about, and the stock market and everything. They think about those things. They take everything into consideration and they try to predict the future. And I'm going to put okay on that. Let that go. Now, I want to remind all of you that every week you get something from Wiley College, and this is the public relations people at Wiley College, and marketing and public relations people send this out. Here's what's happening this week. And in this week, on today, if you scroll down, today they're having a study skills workshop at 3 p.m. Martha Lopez Coleman, Director of Library Services, is having the first of these career pathways things, and that career pathways is going to the stuff that's in your unit that I've included in one of the units that I have in here. Finishing the course, CPI co-curricular activity. The CPI co-curricular activity essay is down here, but I should probably co-list it. I think I will. I'll co-list it and put it over here too, around unit 4, because that's unit 3 or unit 4, because that's when we're starting to see it. Because you can see, as you can see, there's a plus thing there, plus, and assignments, co-curricular activity, add it there as well. Okay, and just put it there. And so it's in 2 places. And the reason why I'm putting it there as well is because you click on that thing, And here we go. The initiative is there and it's talking about the events that are already starting in September. So that's why I moved it up and kept it back, because the due date of it isn't until November. But you got to start going to these sessions and start thinking about it
Okay.
earlier. And so one of the things, I think they're going to do one on time management too. Topics they're going to do one on time management. I'm encouraging Martha Lopez Coleman to do one on time management and being able to use your electronic or digital calendar and schedule your stuff. And that goes right in to talking about what I sent out to people. I sent them a message saying, you got to start being that way and using your calendar and everything, because I'm getting tired of sending you the reminder every week for you to come and send you the link every week. You got to save the link somewhere. And if you got a calendar, like I got a calendar app on mine, it's right there. And there's a Google Calendar app on PCs. But as you can see on this, there are certain things that are in there that are in your thing. So mine isn't being used as much on this because I don't use the Google Calendar here. I use it on my laptop, actually, because the laptop goes everywhere with me. But you can schedule an event by adding something in, and I'll show you. Add something, create a quick event, and create a quick event. You can schedule a quick event, and in the space where I don't want to do quick event, I'm going to create a bigger event. Well, let's just pretend and say we're saying what do you call it? Class. Okay. Class 1 to 2 p.m. today. Okay. And that created it quickly. But you can go in here, and after you created it, the place where it says add notes, URL, or attachments, or description of it, that's where you would paste in the Zoom link that I gave you. So you click here for the event and do this. And also thing about a class session, you can click in that it's a recurring session or weekly session. You can do that on the Google Calendar. And that's how you would schedule your session and get on top of stuff. By doing this, and you get a reminder in your email every week, every 10 minutes before or however long before. And here is where you paste in the URL link. Okay? Is that helpful to all of you?
Sure.
And keeping you on top of stuff, keeping you on time management, and using the digital tools, in this case, the calendar. Okay? And you can do that for all your classes. So I strongly encourage you. Now there's a Zoom session here, part 1. I'm going to put the part 2 up underneath this. I already went over the PowerPoint. The historical critique is also a part of the class. I'm going to have you write a critique that goes over stuff like the whiteboard. What I just showed you, the whiteboard with the red and the black, and the evolution of PR from old PR, which ends around 1899. It's a soft stop to the modern PR stuff. Basically starts with Ivy Lee around 1900, and with the New York Times changing to objective journalism. That's when modern PR kind of starts up. And you can write a history and evolution of PR, which is this right here, the critique, understanding how it developed. And if you open this up, which I'm doing here, it's got these things here. And I'm going to play, this is the Ludlow one right here. It's 29 minutes. I'm not going to play that one. That one's too long. But I am going to play this one. This is the history of PR.
Public relations has a deep history, far older than you might imagine. Certainly older than Twitter, older than TV, and definitely far older than radio. The oldest examples of public relations can be tied back to ancient architecture. Pyramids the world over were a public testament to the strength and power of a regime. Imagine standing in front of a towering stone structure, literally seeing the might of the empire rising out of the sands in front of you. Before the age of any sort of mass media, architecture stood alone as a public statement to an empire's audiences. Fast forward a few millennia to the Boston Tea Party in 1773.
The tea, men! Remember, we're not to damage anything else, we're just after the tea! Why are you destroying the tea? We're protesting unfair taxation. Parliament raised the tea tax over our objections. Maybe next time they'll listen.
A staged revolt against abusive British taxation policies, the Boston Tea Party is considered to be an effective early use of public protest. It's also a good example of how far people will go to defend easy access to their morning caffeine. Let's flip forward a century to the late 1800s and P.T. Barnum, one of the foremost figures in the press agentry model of public relations. Made famous by his work promoting Barnum and Bailey Circus, Barnum is best known for his aggressive promotion practices. Remembered for maxims like, "There's no such thing as bad publicity," Barnum is also remembered for having cynically observed, "I don't care what the newspapers say about me, as long as they get my name right." P.T. Barnum went to great lengths to draw in audiences and wasn't above lying or press
There's a
manipulation.
snake lady.
Long before Disney got their hands on Hans Christian Andersen's Little Mermaid, and definitely before Grumpy Cat's reinvention, P.T. Barnum hopes the public by displaying what he claimed to be a mermaid. Seen here in a replica at the Peabody Museum, the papier-mâché covered skeletons of a monkey joined to a fish drew huge crowds. For better or for worse, much of how we think about public relations today is tied to Barnum's early efforts. Other notable figures in the development of public relations include Abraham Lincoln, who worked hard to cultivate public opinion, and Henry Ford, who successfully used message positioning and access to media to build his company's fortunes. Lincoln wasn't the only president who influenced the field of public relations. Roosevelt's fireside chats revolutionized the way the president interacted with the public. Let's take a quick listen.
My friends, I want to talk for a few minutes with the people of the United States about banking. To talk with the comparatively few who understand the mechanics of banking, but more particularly with the overwhelming majority of you who use banks for the making of deposits and the drawing of checks. I want to tell you what has been done in the last few days and why it was done and what the next steps are going to be.
Speaking conversationally, note how Roosevelt starts, "My friends." Roosevelt used a personal tone to cultivate a sense of relationship with the American people. It was a well-received approach, and White House mail increased from 5,000 to 50,000 letters a week. Seen here on the David Letterman Show, Edward Bernays is perhaps the most well-known figure in the history of public relations.
Doctor, tell me again what the doctor is. What are we dealing with?
Well,
You're the father of
what
public
we're
relations.
dealing with really is the concept that people will believe me more if you call me doctor.
Oh, I see.
As Sigmund Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays was well aware of the power of emotion and symbols, and he used that to great effect in his work. The core concept animating Bernays' work was engineering consent. In the same way that products are manufactured in plants, Bernays believed that we could manufacture public opinion. To see this practice in action, let's take a look at Bernays' 1928 campaign for Lucky Strike. To get the best insight on how to reach women, Bernays consulted a psychoanalyst. Here's how Bernays describes the campaign.
I went to Dr. Brill and asked him what cigarettes meant to women, and he answered very quickly, "Cigarettes are torches of freedom to women."
The strong cultural taboo against smoking meant that Bernays would have to work hard to recharacterize women's smoking as a sign of forward social progress and not an ill-mannered social violation. Branding cigarettes as torches of freedom, Bernays asked influential debutantes to be seen smoking at the Easter Parade. Dramatized here by Judy Garland and Fred Astaire, to 1900s New York, the Easter Parade was a significant event. As Bernays reports, the campaign was an unparalleled success.
Next morning, there wasn't a newspaper in the United States, even the New York Times had a front page story debutantes light torches of freedom to protest man's inhumanity to women by a taboo against smoking.
Less than a decade after women had won the right to vote, Bernays successfully tied smoking to suffrage.
What?
To sum up, from architecture to social engineering, it's
100-year
clear that public
anniversary.
relations has a deep and important history. Borrowing an observation from Stuart Ewan, the history of PR is a history of a battle for what is reality and how people will see and understand it.
Okay, the Torches of Freedom thing and the tobacco companies, that's a classic examples. And I will tell you that besides Lucky Strike, there was another thing, and a cigarette company came out with Virginia Slims because Slim cigarettes were sexier. And the menthol flavor and menthol brand was initially for the women because it was more their type of flavor they would probably like more. And those are examples right there of the tobacco companies using public relations. And they were using public relations back in the day all through the 1990s. And it was in the 1990s that the FDA started cracking down on them because they figured out that one of the things that tobacco companies were doing was they were targeting teenagers and telling the, they were telling the teenagers, hey, this is your torch of liberty. This is your freedom. Go out and smoke. And smoking's not bad for you. It's okay. And they had the Camel, Mr. Camel, and the Marlboro Man. You know, they were doing these icons as ways to attract the younger generation and the teenage. And so they basically, the FDA kind of outlawed that approach, that they weren't supposed to do that and specifically target the teens anymore. So that made it a little bit more difficult for the tobacco companies, but they adapted to it. Just like the Coca-Cola and Pepsi, they didn't like that as much either, and the soda companies, because they were doing all kinds of marketing, as were the chocolates and all the candies were doing marketing directly in the schools. And they had to get rid of that directly in the high schools and everything. You know, they had to get rid of most of that. So those are examples of cultivating the image, the public image through branding. Okay, this is a historical critique, understanding how modern PR developed. There's a Ludlow link there. There's a sister PR, the one I just showed you. Museum of PR link here, and working with the Rockefellers. This is an essay I want you to do where you basically trace the evolution of public relations from old PR to modern PR. I strongly suggest you use that whiteboard as well to help you whiteboard right here. Okay, so this is a historical perspective, right? Is all chalked up in here, and the thing that's happening later on today, at 3 p.m., is the information for it is in here in Unit 4, the strategies, the co-curricular activity. I put it down there. So I'm trying to think. That's it right there. And remember, I'm trying to craft the homepage and everything about this so that the homepage has the things to remind you about what you have coming up, like Chapter 3 quiz, and the modules area for you to, I'm trying to turn that into whatever I do in class, whatever I would show in class, and whatever I would use in these Zoom sessions. I'm gonna populate them into these modules. I'm gonna put the content there, okay? One more thing that I will point out to all of you, because I realize that some of you haven't done it yet. There is a discussion number 2 that I created. I want you to identify 2 people, either in your local community or they're nationally recognized or known, that are PR practitioners. Explain why they qualify as practitioners. This discussion will become unavailable at the end of September.
Okay.
So you have to identify 2 people. That's not very many that are known for practicing public relations, and it's going to be worth 10 points each, 10 points each person.
You just want a short paragraph, right?
Yeah, for short paragraph for each, and short paragraph for each explanation. Identify the person and why they qualify.
Okay.
Okay. And so that's a graded discussion that I put up there. And that's like I said, that's not due until I bringing it up because I've got the due date here, September 4th, but it's available until September 30th. And this is a follow-up on things we learned in chapter 2, PR practitioners in the book. So we learned that about this in chapter 2. We're following up on it now. And the modules, who are PR practitioners, unit 2. And we're here right now. And we're going to do the historical critique is going to be after you do the chapter 3 quiz. And the chapter 3 quiz is right here. And I'll give you an example, a few of them. What person is often credited with beginning the photo op? Short for a photo opportunity is defined by careful planned use event that yields an effective photograph. Calvin Coolidge. And guess what? Another president, we just saw him try to use a photo op in Lafayette Square, where he tear gassed the protesters before so he could hold up a Bible upside down.
Oh, God.
You remember that now. And then everybody's denying that they knew that that's what the president was going to do.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that. The generals were all saying we didn't know that was what he was going to do. And Barr was the worst. William Barr, because Barr was the one that made sure it was going to happen and made sure it happened. They cleared the way for him. And then he denied that he knew anything about it. Person were known for his fireside chats, FDR. Famous carbonated beverage patented for 5 cents a glass, Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. According to your ebook, who significantly contributed to the demise of patent medicines? Samuel and Hopkins Adams. And public be damned, Vanderbilt. These are pretty simple questions. There's 24 of them. You got 2 bites at the apple, and the highest one counts. So I'm hoping all of you are enjoying the class and the way I'm putting it together. As you can tell from all this, public relations is very relevant to everything that goes on in our society.
Definitely.
Yes.
And whether you realize it or not, there are a lot of PR practitioners that are practicing out there that are hidden. And that's one of the reasons why I put that discussion exercise question up there. Is there are a lot, most every celebrity has a PR practitioner working for them. If for nothing else, managing their social media pages and stuff and responding. And yeah, I'm sorry, people. Highly unlikely that if you contacted a celebrity that you got a direct response from them. It was probably a PR practitioner. And it's about a 50-50 on whether, if you ask for their autograph, on whether that autograph actually came from them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because a PR practitioner probably was the one that was responsible for all of that. Sad reality, but you know, it's about managing public opinion, managing time, and everything else. You pay somebody else to do it for you because they're learned, they're got the skills, and they're better at it than you are. They have the time. Okay. Anybody have any questions before I let you go?
No, sir.
Okay, I appreciate the 3 of you coming in for this. I'm enjoying the class, and I'm glad to see that at least 3 out of the 5 of you made it through Hurricane Laura. That was last Thursday, so this is my follow-up on it and my spin on stuff. I'm going to go ahead and end this session. All of you take care. Enjoy your week and the weekend and 4th not 4th of July. It's Labor Day weekend. And
Oh.
be safe in your Labor Day weekend. Do not practice social distancing, wear a mask,
Sure.
do everything, be safe. And we'll see you again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.